Welcome into Trucker Talk Radio. You're on Behind the Wheelhouse with J and J. I'm John. This is Justin. How you doing today, Justin?
Doing well, sir.
Before we bring in our guest, here's something that ties right into today's whole conversation. Right now, somewhere in this country, a load is getting tendered to a carrier that doesn't exist. Stolen MC number, spoof phone, fake insurance certificate. The shipper thinks they vetted them. They didn't vet who's actually showing up to the dock. That's the gap. Vetting a carrier on paper tells you the company looks legit. It does not tell you who climbs into the cab. That's the entire reason Ready App built Driver Verify, a verified professional driver profile tied to a real human being with a verified CDL that a broker or a shipper can actually trust before the freight moves. Authority verification and AI document validation are the roadmap to make the loop even tighter. Check out Ready App today, ready-app.com. Ready App, be ready, be verified. Most of our conversations are about moving freight, recruiting drivers, running a fleet. Today, we're talking about something every single transportation company eventually runs into, whether they want to or not: protecting what they're owed. Our guest, Charles Soncrant, president of Kizer, Schwartz Associates. Charles and his team specialize in the freight transportation industry, recovering unpaid freight receivables for carriers, and they lean on federal statutes and case law to back up a pretty simple position: the carrier must get paid. They handle commercial debt collection, freight claim investigations, double brokering scams, freight broker bankruptcy, FMC reporting. They even run a program called Freight Broker Alarm that warns motor carriers about bad actors before they get burned. And in 2026, with fraud where it is, that work matters more than it ever has. Charles, welcome to Behind the Wheelhouse. We're happy to have you on.
Pleasure to be here, gentlemen. Thanks for having me.
Like we said before we jumped on here, hope you can smoke a whole pack by the time we get done with this show.
Well, with that list of things that he has to deal with on a daily basis in this industry, I'm just amazed he even has hair.
Yeah.
I mean, that's that's a lot.
So let's start from the beginning. How did you get involved in transportation?
It was not by choice by any means. I can tell you the entire story, but long story short, it was just right place, right time. And it made perfect sense to me. And I'm just one of those people that I like to argue. I'm going to argue. If I like to debate. And this just gave me something that was very interesting, because when I first started out, I started out at this competitor firm of mine, and they told me that I was tasked with contacting shippers and telling them that they had to pay the same bill twice. That did not make sense to me, because I understand things like most people understand things on a business to business transaction. This means I hired you to do something. You did that something. You gave me an invoice. I paid you for that invoice. End of story. And that's
Right.
what most people's basis and narrative of the transactions in the shipping industry of a shipment, right? A load.
Yeah.
But business to business implies there are two businesses at play when there's clearly not. There's four minimum. There are three. You've got a shipper, a consignee, and a motor carrier, and maybe a freight broker. That's four businesses that are all working in tandem to make something happen. What happened enriched everybody at the table except for the carrier, who provided the services, allowing the other companies to be enriched. So that's unjust enrichment. And there's laws that protect motor carriers' paychecks, because we all understand one simple thing: no carriers, no food or toilet paper on the shelves.
Right.
Neighbors will begin to kill each other, if we go to a third world country. So when it
So
comes,
first, I want you to ballpark it for me, because what you're talking about is extremely important. How much money do you think carriers are leaving on the table every year
oh
just
my
from
God.
invoices that are never getting paid?
I'll put it like this. I'm growing the company now because I'm very hands on, and when the job has to get done, I don't have time to outsource, so I do it all myself. But I do have a good team of collectors now, right? But there was only three of us last year, and we pulled in $1.5 million. We recovered 1.5 million, and there's only two or
Wow.
three collectors last year. We're
Wow.
only covering what we are recovering is literally the tip of the iceberg. I mean,
Wow.
it is like the top, not even 1% of the iceberg tip. We're talking a fraction of 1% of the iceberg tip. That's what we recovered. The problem is this. A lot of these, your average invoice is somewhere between about 1,000, 1,200 to maybe 3,000, right? The
Mhm.
laws support that the shippers and the consignees or the beneficial freight owners are liable to ensure the carrier gets paid. But a lot of these shippers will rely on business to business transaction as their narrative, and they'll refuse to pay regardless of the laws. The problem is, who's going to sue these guys over $3,000?
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
So if you ask me, how many shippers are getting away without having to pay twice? A lot.
Hey drivers, our partners over at Zero Breeze have designed a no idle air conditioner for sleeper cabs and fleets that can pay for itself in just one summer. If you're spending up to $40 a night in fuel, it's time to stop idling and start saving. For $50 off, email sales@zerobreeze.com or text them at 945-247-1298. And don't forget to ask them about their extended warranty option. Check them out today at zerobreeze.com.
Is it shippers more than brokers that you're finding, or because look, I had a trucking company. We had about 65 trucks, and it was always a problem. If half a page was cut off, if the corner of a page was cut off, they weren't paying the bill, and collecting from them was a royal pain in the ass. And they were really just hoping that you'd forget about them. What do you think the most common reasons are a carrier doesn't get paid? Is it the paperwork? Is it the broker?
No, it's
Or the
double
shippers?
brokering. It's double brokering scams. That's the number one reason. And let me tell you something. If any jackass decides that that's going to be their story on why they're not going to pay the carriers because, oh, the corner's cut off, let me know. Because here's what I want to know. Regardless of the paperwork missing a corner, they can look in their system and make sure that that load got delivered. Did it get delivered? Yes or no? Because if it did, then they know they're standing on ceremony. If the carrier did the job, the carriers owed their money. Now, if they're claiming that the load, to suggest that they weren't able to tell if the load was delivered or not because the bill lading's missing a corner. So you're telling me that they just didn't follow up on the load? That load's still out there somewhere. They're not even worried about that. That's not what happened. They know damn
Right.
well that load was secured.
Absolutely.
They're standing on ceremony and looking for any reason they can not to pay. So I'm going to ask them, where's your cargo claim for loss, damage, or delay of cargo if you're claiming you didn't get the load? Well, I'm not claiming I didn't get the load. Okay, so you're saying that you did get the load, and the only reason you're not paying is because of you're missing a corner of a piece of a page. There's
Yeah.
other ways to tell if the load got delivered or not. I mean, holy crap. How professional is a shipper if they don't even know when their load was delivered? Did you telling me that you didn't follow up with your customer to make sure they were happy with what you
Well,
sent them?
well,
Yeah.
and I'll tell you, and I know Justin wants to get in here, but he's already talked to you once, so I'm gonna, I'm gonna get this question. So,
Yeah.
because I dealt with this all
Yeah.
the time, and really what it ends up now, I was an agent for a large company, but the large companies, it really ends up hurting the drivers because most times
Yeah.
what these large carriers are going to say is, hey, if driver, if you can't get the correct
Mhm.
paperwork in and you can't show all four corners of the paperwork and you can't ensure that it's readable, I don't care if you delivered that load or not, we're deducting you. and
Yeah.
and that happens with a lot of carriers. Now there
A
are some
lot.
good ones that will go to the bat and fight, but a billing clerk is only going to work so long, and then her management's going to say, hey, we can't recover this. It's
Mhm.
$1,500. Like you said, are they going to fight for, are they going to litigate it for $1,500? It adds up to a much larger amount across all their, but it's all different brokers. It's all different
Yeah.
brokers or all different
Mhm.
shippers. So you can't, so a carrier can't justify suing 20 different brokers for, $2,000 a piece. It just doesn't, to them, it just doesn't make sense. And who it's really hurting is the driver, because then more times than not, they're going and deducting that driver.
You're absolutely right. No one's going to sue for $2,000, but what if I've got 10 clients that are all owed $2,000 each? I'll joint file.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
That's what they need to know.
Yep,
Yes, exactly.
absolutely. By themselves, they don't stand a chance. It's
Yeah.
that simple.
Mm-hmm.
Unless they are willing to pay 5,000 to recover 1,200. I mean, you
Right.
know.
Yeah, that's something I think needs to be talked more, because I don't. Maybe if drivers put pressure on the carriers, like, hey, you can do a joint, join up together to do it. Because, and I've got to say, I've got to put my 2 cents in. It got so bad when I was an agent, if the thumb was in the picture, or if it was in a clipboard and the little clip was showing, they wouldn't accept it. I mean, it was asinine. So I don't miss those days at all. But what I want to ask you, how bad has the fraud gotten over the last, say, 5 years?
Okay, perfect question. I can make this real simple. When I started doing this 14 years ago, almost 15 years ago, double brokering scams only made up 5%.
Hmm.
Now it's 95 to 98%. The fraud is running amok.
Wow.
And if you look at what's going on in politics, where's the FBI? What are the FBI doing?
Nothing for trucking.
The FMCSA are the guard dogs, but the FBI is the enforcer. So no matter how much we report to the FMCSA, no matter how much the FMCSA reports to the FBI, if the FBI is too worried about politicking instead of doing their damn job, well, the people are going to suffer. But
Hmm.
that's where I come in at, because I know the laws, I know the regulations, and this may sound weird, but this is a real thing. A carrier can say literally the exact same thing I say, but I'm going to get different results because one, I speak with conviction. My 14 years of experience, you're not gonna tell me I'm wrong. Two, that logo. Over the
Oh,
years, my name and this logo have created a reputation in the industry. I've had a non-arranger. I had to tell a non-arranger I've got a good rapport with them. I said, listen, the guy over here, they don't seem to understand, and I don't want you guys to have to pull out your checkbook again. So I need you to say something to them because they're putting you in a bad situation. Because the shipper and the consignee are liable, no matter who arranged. It doesn't matter. So the person that arranged is the guy that has the direct relationship with the freight broker. They're the ones that are controlling that freight broker's money, and they're in the best position to make that freight broker do what they want. The non-arrangers, the sap that's getting sucked into somebody else's BS. So I'll never forget this email where I had to reach out to the non-arranger, and he knew who I was. And the email that I was CC'd in said, if Charlie ever calls you, you pay him, and you pay him same day. I was like, hey,
yeah.
that's stuff
Yeah.
that you don't get to hear every day, but it's fun, being a fly on the wall and just kind of seeing who you are in the overall grand scheme of things. And trust me, that logo, that Kaiser Schwartz logo, it's got a reputation behind it. People
Yeah.
that don't know, they find out.
Right. So let's hit your specialty straight on, double
Yeah.
brokering. Your own site calls it the industry's leading problem for unpaid freight. And the data backs that up, I think. One owner operator survey had 28% getting paid at a slash rate by a second broker, and another 23% getting stiffed on completely by both. Some estimates put double brokering at $500 to $700 million a year. Break it down for somebody who's never heard the term. How does that scam actually work?
Okay, so here's how it works. It's real simple. So a broker, by definition, their job is to vet and hire a proper motor carrier. Their job is not to hire another freight broker because their customers are going to be getting double dipped twice for brokerage services. That's not fair to the customer. So a broker's only supposed to hire a carrier. So along comes a scam artist. Let's just call them scam carriers are us. The lead broker, the original broker, tried to hire a carrier. They did not do their due diligence, or they're dealing with a very, very sophisticated fraud criminal operation that knows how to cover their trail very well. So the original broker thinks they're hiring the carrier, a real carrier,
Mm-hmm.
unbeknownst to that original broker. That carrier is not a carrier. He turns around and walks across the hallway and says, "We got one. Find us a carrier." Now, that same scam carrier is pretending to be a broker. They're
Yep.
going to hire a real carrier. Carrier don't know any better. They show up, pick the freight up, drop it off. They take their bill of lading and they send it to the broker that hired them, which is normal, natural protocol. That broker throws that carrier's invoice in the garbage can. And then they'll turn around and create their own invoice, staple it to the bill of lading, and then send it through the fake carrier back to the original broker. Going, here's the bill of lading that you were waiting on. We did the delivery, everything checked out fine. The original broker contacts the customer, everything checks out. Customer pays the broker sends the money to the fake carrier. The real carrier never sees his paycheck, calls us. When we reach out to the shipper's like, well, we gave the load to broker number one.
Right.
We've contact broker number one, and we're like, our client and broker number two, they have no clue who those two companies are. As far as they were concerned, the company, the transaction of companies that were involved ended at the carrier that the original broker hired, not knowing that that load went through two other people's hands.
It's unbelievable that it's gone on, been able to go on for as long as it has. Why do you
Mm-hmm.
think nobody's, cracked the code and really solved this issue?
Because 80% of it's happening outside of our country in India and Russia,
Mhm.
and they have tried to crack down on it. There were six major companies in India. This was about 3 or 4 years ago. Out of the six, they were only able to shut one of them down because of jurisdiction. That one company, and these are big, tall, glass, beautiful buildings. People
Mhm.
have IDs, they check in, they check their badge to get in, and I'm talking about it is a legitimate business, but their legitimate
Well, it
business is
is, and I
running
don't want to,
scams
and I
on
don't want to say
Americans.
any names here, but I know specifically there is a large broker out there who brokers to another very large broker
Yeah.
out there, and they're their number one customer, and
Hmm.
it's been a problem for years. And you're right, it's a huge business.
All right, I'm going to say this. The broker you're talking about, it's not C.H. Robinson. It's not J.B. Hunt. It's that other guy that controls about 30% of the fucking market. And let
Yeah.
me tell you
Yeah.
something. I can make a very compelling argument that they are currently involved in the largest double brokering scam that you have ever seen in the history of the shipping industry. And I can show you how it works. The
Wow.
thing is, it cannot be disproven.
Right. Well, something you had said that when we were on the phone the other day that really resonated with me and stuck, and I want you to talk about it a little bit if you don't mind. We were talking about, litigation and going to court for all these different, double brokering and different things. But there's an issue with the lawyers not having the transportation knowledge. And so you've got everybody in the courtroom that doesn't know transportation, and then there's verdicts that come out, and then they're not maybe per se the right verdict, and then everybody uses that to try to get out of that. Could you talk a little bit about that, because that really
Absolutely.
made a lot of sense to
I
me.
I provide consultations to attorneys all over the country. That you're absolutely right. They don't know, and they are looking at an uphill battle trying to do their research and find the case laws and all this stuff. So a lot of these attorneys will contact me and they'll say, "Okay, they got a compelling argument. Okay, the broker the bill of lading is a contract, but the carrier's name's not on the bill of lading." Well, that's a compelling argument. Luckily for them, I know all the case laws where that argument has already been brought up. It's already been struck down. The carrier won. Now,
Mhm.
what you're talking about is the dangers in allowing these uneducated attorneys to be fighting cases and losing them because they are setting a precedence for a lot of these shippers. This is how you can evade federal laws for liability. So there are a lot of attorneys that do come to me for my expertise because this is for 14 years I've been studying for this one debate. Is shipper consignee liability real? And after my 14 years, I can make any counter argument. I can rebuttal any position anybody has. Now, I am willing to concede because I base my knowledge off of what can be proven and what was agreed upon. What support do we have? What's already been discussed? There are some claims that are not valid, so I do have to concede. But you're
Mm.
absolutely right. These attorneys, if they don't know what they're arguing, they're setting a very, very bad precedence that will ultimately affect many other carriers if allowed to go unchecked.
So, what do you think about this Supreme Court ruling in the broker carrier liability, with brokers not now being held accountable for the drivers, the carriers that they hire if they get into an accident? It's never happened before. It's always kind of been pushed aside, and brokers haven't had to worry about any kind of liability with the carriers that they hire if someone gets in an accident. What's your feelings on that?
Well, yeah, because when you break it down, the broker's job was to vet a proper carrier. So if they gave the job to somebody that only had 6 months experience, they had no referrals, they had no. You see, you got to earn your stripes in this industry. So if you're just getting started, get comfortable accepting the shitty loads that nobody wants. Don't come along thinking you're going to make the big bucks right off the bat. You've got a reputation to build.
Mm.
But so when a broker knows that they can save a little bit of money by giving a load to somebody with 6 months, that's the
Yeah,
risk they are creating,
they are.
trying to save a
You're
little
right.
money. When I deal with millions of dollars,
Or when they book a load with somebody that can barely speak English.
Yeah.
okay, what Trump's doing about that, a lot of people don't seem to understand. They think, oh, it's racist that if they can't read a kindergarten book or they can't speak English. No. How are they
Those
expected
have
to?
always been the law. It's been the
Yeah.
law.
Yeah.
No one's been following it.
Yeah. So, but who's been in charge of the country?
Well, exactly.
we're
100%.
Look, if they fuck this country up real good in 12 years, it's going to take us 24 years to clean it up.
There's a new wrinkle too called credential harvesting. It's about legitimate carrier accepting tenders under a trusted identity. There's a market out there for buying legit operating authorities. Are you seeing, what are your thoughts on
That needs
identity
that
theft?
needs
And
that needs to be outlawed.
yeah,
That needs to be outlawed because what
yeah,
you're doing is coming along and buying somebody else's reputation. Reputation's
there we
earned,
go.
it's not bought. And why would
Hmm.
you, if you were a savvy businessman, the whole point of running a business is to give birth to the business, build it, watch it create. If you're
Mhm.
into buying other people's businesses, I understand that, but why? Who are the people? The people that are trying to buy the authority, they need to be scrutinized heavily before that purchase is allowed. What do they intend to do with the MC number? You know?
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, it's
So
that seems to happen more and more. And I've got something I want to bring to you because I hear this, John hears this a lot, especially from the brokers, and I want to hear your point of view on it because it seems like every broker I talk to has a little bit different. With the Supreme Court ruling, all I hear from brokers, and I might pronounce this wrong, but vicarious liability. I hear that multiple conversations when I speak to a broker about verifying drivers or any of that. Can you speak on that a little bit? Because every time I talk to a broker, they have a different reasoning behind it or what puts them in that position. Could you help me understand that a little bit better?
Yeah,
yeah,
and let me step on Justin's toes just for a minute because I want to go into what we're actually hearing. We're hearing that these insurance companies are telling
Right.
brokers to basically turn their head the other way. And they're saying that it's better to do nothing. But that's not what the ruling said. And that's
Mm.
not what Amy
Right.
Coney Barrett said. She said that everybody has to have a duty of care when it comes to the broker putting on assigning a carrier and assigning that driver. So they need to go to the ultimate extent of whatever is available. I'll let you light your third cigarette and go on with your thoughts.
okay, so from my standpoint, it seems like a logical basis. It seems like what they're doing is just cutting out a step, and here's why. The carrier's recourse is against the shippers. The shipper's recourse, if they have to pay twice, is against the broker that got them into this mess in the first place.
Mhm.
And how did the broker get the shipper into this mess? by not performing proper due diligence or losing control of the freight or whatever. And that exposes other companies to liabilities and legalities. Why should the broker not be held accountable for putting those shippers in that position to begin with?
Right.
So
Right.
that's the way I see it from a recourse standpoint, because as they say, gentlemen, shit rolls downhill.
It does.
Yes.
Well, and
So
the insurance companies are going to go with the people with the deepest pockets, and that's what's happening right now. You know, do you think as the industry is finally moving towards any kind of meaningful reform here?
no, no, not at all. And here's why. Shippers will have to pay sometimes upwards of millions of dollars in annual shipping costs. Boy, it sure would be easy for them to avoid paying those shipping costs if they created a little LLC that says brokers on it, and then they broker all their loads through the broker. So they know they could hire a carrier just as easily as they could hire a broker. So why don't they? All they would have to do is create a little scapegoat broker, book all their loads through them. As soon as the carriers start asking for their paycheck, they start showing some fake proof of payment. There's many unscrupulous shippers that would do that, and the only way the courts can figure out how to keep shippers honest, self accountability. So until they can figure out some other way to ensure that carriers aren't in on it, shippers have to be liable for, because a contract is okay. Quid pro quo. The carrier agreed to deliver the freight on time without incident, and he also agreed to be responsible for the safety of the freight while it's in their possession. What did the other party agree to in exchange? Payment. So if the carrier damages the shipper's freight, who suffered a loss? The shipper did. How would the shipper be able to file a claim on the carrier's insurance if the carrier didn't contractually agree to be liable for the safety of the freight? It's easy for a shipper to deny the fact that the bill of lading is a contract when the carrier's enforcing the shipper's terms. But if the carrier messes up, you can bet your ass the shipper's going to be right there. You messed up my freight. You didn't deliver on time. Penalty, penalty, penalty.
That's right.
So, you know,
Absolutely.
it is what it is. But we fight it every day.
How important is it for a very small mid-sized carrier to have a lawyer on retainer, or I mean, because I remember with my agent days, we'd try to set up a new customer or something, and there'd be so many black lines and red lines on the paperwork that you couldn't even read the paperwork because they're going back and forth. And people at management, they don't know enough, in my opinion. A lot of them, they don't know what they're marking out or what they're wanting. How important would you think that is for to have somebody like you, or somebody with at least some transportation industry knowledge in the lawyer side to be on that?
Okay, I'll put it like this. Every successful business that you can think of has attorneys. They have attorneys, and those attorneys' job is to guide and direct that company in
Right.
business law. Now, if you've got a ton of experience and you know stuff, go on out there. But I promise you this, experience is going to teach you the most. The question is can you afford the lesson when it happens?
Right.
If you
Right.
can't, then and you're new at this, you better get some sort of guidance, some sort of counsel. We provide free consultations for that exact reason, because in this industry, you are required to make executive decisions sometimes in the moment, and you better hope that that decision is the right decision, because it will
And
come
not an
back to bite you
emotional
in the ass.
decision. How many times in this industry, Justin, I've seen it, you
Yep.
see emotional decisions.
All the time, all the time, all the time.
So on that point, you sit down with a carrier today and you only get to give them three pieces of advice to protect themselves legally. What are those three things?
Oh, that's easy. Number one, keep my number on speed dial. There's that. But the real answer to that question is this. Number one, know your shippers. If you're picking up from a warehouse or a port or something, you're not working for the port. You're not working for the warehouse. You are working for whoever's freight that is on the back of your truck, and that is your boss. And if you don't know who your boss is, you don't know who to seek your paycheck from.
Right.
Know whose freight you're hauling, right? So that's number one. Number two, without a shadow of a doubt, read the broker carry agreement Read every damn word of it, because here's what's going on right now in the industry. So the courts have already declared that a broker carrier agreement cannot reallocate liability for payment. When a carrier says, per the broker carrier agreement, that they agree not to seek payment from the shipper or consignee, they're not releasing the shipper and consignee from liability. It's only for billing purposes. It's saying we agree not to seek payment from them because we know you are, Mr. Broker, and we don't want to cause confusion. So we'll bill you, you'll bill them, and then they'll give you my paycheck, you give me the paycheck. It's not releasing the shipper and the consignee of their liability, but they did say that only the three parties to the bill of lading contract are free to reallocate liability for payment. The carrier is one of those three parties. So what's happening is these shippers are getting so desperate to evade liability for payment. They are instructing their freight brokers to include in the broker carrier agreement a waiver that the carriers don't even read. They don't even know it. And carriers are waiving their right to payment. And just like we talked about before, these moronical attorneys that don't know what they're doing are allowing precedents to be set. And if that precedence becomes a problem, right now, anytime somebody says broker carry agreement, I eat their lunch. But it's about to get to the point where it's going to create a gray area. Did the carrier actually waive their right to payment? So those are my three advices. Know who your boss and who your paycheck's coming from. Know whose freight's on your truck. Read that broker carry agreement and keep me on speed dial. Let me replace this. Take me off speed dial. Just know this. When you get to the shipper, that's when you're going to get to see the bill of lading for the first time. Okay? The bill of lading is a contract, and shippers are also starting to add language to the bill of lading that the carrier is waiving their right to payment. Now, here's my argument to that: that every term and condition of a shipment has to be agreed upon prior to the shipment taking place. If the carrier was never made aware that that language was on that bill of lading before he invested his money and time to go to the shipper, it's not a term and condition, it's an addendum. And an addendum requires a signature by the carrier saying he agrees to this addendum.
Got it.
But shippers are going, nope. But what are we going to do? It's only $1,500. Sue them to set precedents.
So kind of along these lines, carriers struggle to keep their paperwork in order. I mean, especially the smaller ones. They're just not very organized, and then that ends up in problems. So my question is explain to these guys where documentation fits in. We have a lot of small carriers, a lot of owner operators all listening to the show. You mentioned it earlier on the fraud side, but on the liability side and the risk side, how much does the paper trail matter when things go to court?
Very much everything. And the way I sort it out is this: you don't know what's going to be important later. So keep up with everything now and stay organized. I'll tell my employees this. I tell my clients this. I'll tell anybody. You want to know the secret to success? I can tell you two things: time management and organization. If you're not organized, you're not managing your time.
Yeah.
Stay organized, manage your time, keep up with everything, keep paper trails for everything. If somebody says you have to mail your original copy of the BOL, BS. Do not mail them that. That's like telling somebody, hey, give me your evidence against me. I promise.
My God, I can't tell you how many times, gosh, I wish I knew you 4 years ago. We heard this all the time. And even, I was an agent for a large trucking company and a sizable agent. And we would get it all. We would hand in the paperwork, and they would come out after us and say they're deducting our agency because we did not provide the original bill of lading. That meant the driver needed to come in, or the driver needed to mail in the original bill of lading in order to be paid.
They're asking you to violate records to be kept laws. No go.
Yeah.
No go.
Yeah.
Records to be kept laws. The reason why a bill of lading comes in three is because the shipper gets a copy, consignee gets a copy, carrier gets a copy. Every party with beneficial interest to that transaction gets a copy of the bill of lading for their records. To request a carrier to send their original bill of lading, that's unnecessary. The shipper's got a copy, consignee's got a copy. Nobody's saying, where's my freight? So why does it matter the original bill of lading? Is your customer complaining they didn't get their freight? That's literally just a violation of records to be kept. You're asking somebody to give up the only evidence that they have that they did the job.
Yeah.
Well, I want to go back to Jonathan's question, and I want to kind of change it just a little bit, and to what we're talking about now with owner operators. Me and Jonathan, that's mainly who we ever dealt with. And you brought it up earlier about how, or John did, about how drivers are the ones that gets penalized that are leased on to to a mega owner operator company. What can you tell owner operators that, don't have their own authority that's leased on? What can they do to help? Because they are the ones who usually gets the short end of the stick because the carrier is just going to take it out of their paycheck and there's not anything a driver can do unless they do something legal. So, besides paperwork, is there any other advice that you can give them?
Yeah, don't do it. I understand. Here's why owner operators exist. It's almost like an express lane pass at Disney World. You don't have to stand in line and wait the 2 years building your reputation. We built a reputation. Join our fleet.
Mm-hmm.
Let me tell you why that's dangerous for the guy that's actually driving the truck. The shipper and consignee have to be able to prove that they paid the carrier. If you are signed up under an owner operator to say ABC Trucking and ABC Trucking doesn't pay you, but the shipper can prove they paid ABC, shipper and
Mm-hmm.
consignee are off the hook. That falls under equitable estoppel and becomes a civil matter between employee and employer. Federal laws aren't going to save you there. So to try to that express lane comes with risk. I mean, yeah, you might get extra loads booked, but you're also going to end up in a situation where maybe the company that you were, owner operator agreement with, maybe they weren't so good at business. Maybe there's a reason that they were looking for other people to do the job for them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not saying they're all like that, but what I'm saying is, you know,
You just don't have a leg to stand on if you go that route, basically
if you
what you're
go
saying.
that route and you don't get paid, there's like a carrier has multiple options of recovery, right? But if you're working if you're just an employee basically using your own truck for this other guy, yeah, no, that's bad news because you're out there operating without protection.
Speaking of protection, so this is kind of where it all comes around for Justin and I. Justin and I are associated with Ready App. I've built Ready App. Justin's been involved with me for several years. We're growing. Everything we just talked about, the double brokering, the identity theft, the credential harvesting, it all comes down to one question, in my opinion: who's actually moving this load? Justin and I talk about double brokering
Mm-hmm.
almost every day and how we can help with carriers and brokers validating drivers, help drivers get better pay because we're creating like a baseball card score, but
Yeah.
driver identity is not focused on at all. We're talking
Mm-hmm.
to a company called Genlogs who's big in the market right now with about verification, and the one missing piece they're missing is driver verification. They were just on a show the other day and they're bringing up driver verification, and then the conversation keeps getting rerouted to carrier verification. And we're not solving the problem. We're not solving the gap. We're trying to build trust through our program called Driver Verify, verified professional drivers and profiles in our Ready App passport system. So, from a legal and risk management seat, how important do you think that identity and verification are becoming?
Very, but I promise you this, here's the biggest problem. Y'all have no idea what y'all are up against. You have no idea how sophisticated these fraudulent people. Everything
Mhm.
you're saying, they've already thought about it and they've already found ways around it. There's only one way. And why would I tell people this? It'll put me out of business if everybody listens to me because they're not going to, because God forbid it's extra work. But here's the only way. You hire a truck, ABC truck, right? Then you call your customer and you tell them, I hired ABC truck. When this truck gets there, you take a picture of whatever's on the side of that truck for records. And if it's not ABC truck, do not load them until you call me and let's figure out who they are and where they got the load from.
You're right, and we need to
Yep.
work together. We've got the platform for it where it
Yep.
shares that information in seconds. It shares that information in seconds to the broker, to the shipper. The carrier validates it, And then if it's not, it doesn't match up, then you know what we need to do? We need to have your number on speed dial,
Yep.
and
There you
then
go.
we work to
I tell you
really
what the problem is, lumper services. Most
Uh,
of these people that are on the bay, they're literally employees. They don't give a shit. They just want their
uh,
paycheck. They're trying to get home. They don't care.
yep.
And they're doing things in real time that are going to affect people because nobody's paying attention. What's crazy to me is I had a situation the other day where I was talking to a lead broker and he's trying to convince me about the truck he hired. Then he sends me photos where my guy checked in as the scam carrier because they were instructed to. When you get there, check in as this name and they'll give you the load. So they're just
Yeah.
following instructions. The picture he sent me had my client's truck right there in the background. And I said, y'all didn't see the fucking truck in the background?
they're not looking
Y'all
at it.
paid that.
No, they ain't paying no attention to it.
Yeah.
You're
They
exactly right.
paid the scam carrier and was trying to say, well, as you can see right here, it says they checked in his AFA. And I said, and as you can see, the truck in the background says their name. Oh my God.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah. Yep, that's exactly it. It's funny because we're just talking about that now, how we can create, how we can require the drivers to, well, not required, but the drivers will upload pictures of their truck, and the side of the truck, the AI will read the side of the truck and match it with their authority that they've also attached, and then that will also be validated by the carrier, and it will make sure that they're all matched up. It has to be done. We've got to fix this problem. It's just ridiculous that this fraud is keeps getting worse and worse.
worse.
And I think
Yeah.
it's going to get worse over the next decade. I mean, I'm curious what your opinion is before we get off here. I mean, this go on forever.
Oh, yeah.
AI, autonomous truck, getting into this fraud game here soon. Where's it all going over the next 10 years? Maybe 5 years.
When I can create an image of a truck with the name on it that matches my fake MC number well, it's not a fake MC number, but I don't actually own trucks. But
Mhm.
when I can create an image that looks really shit with me standing right next to the truck, holding a sign with today's date on it using AI, like I said, y'all have no idea what y'all are up against.
Mm,
It used to be, how do we stop this shit from happening? I'm here to tell you, there's no stopping it. There's no stopping it. All you can do is know what to do when it does happen.
yeah.
That's
Yeah,
it.
you're right. The images are crazy. Well, I got one last question for you, and it's probably hard. You might have one thing, but I want to know the one thing if you could change tomorrow in trucking, what would it be?
I would outlaw brokers.
There you
And listen, there are some really damn good brokers out there, and a lot of them rely on me to help guide them. I'm not saying brokers are bad. What I'm saying is the mere fact that they exist is what these fraud companies are exploiting. If they made it illegal to broker freight, even if you're a carrier, if they outlawed owner operator agree, just know this, for any law that they pass, there are ways around it, some within good intention, some with malicious intent, and that's exactly what they're doing. When the meter can go left or right, you you don't want it to go one of those directions. You need to get rid of the meter altogether. Don't let it go left or right. Just eliminate the possibility of it possibly going right. So, unfortunately, whatever man makes, another man will come along and exploit. So, if they made it illegal to broker freight by any capacity, if you were hired as a carrier and you don't have a truck readily available, you send that load back to the customer and tell them I can't do it. Sorry. That would put a lot of people out of business, though. That's why it's never going to happen. That's why we have found ourselves in a situation where there's no way around it. All you can do is protect yourself by, making sure whenever you put your freight on a truck, know that that's the truck that was supposed to be there. Because if not, how do you know that there isn't a truck company out there that has hacked into another truck company's report, showed up 30 minutes before, and they're not representing anybody? They're just seeing if you're dumb enough to put your freight on their truck, and then guess where they're going? To the port of
go.
Miami, baby. You know how much
Well,
that shit'll get in the black market?
yeah. Well, you're right because when we were both agents, it would happen all the time. A driver would quit. He wouldn't send back his DOT, numbers on the side of the truck, his stickers. He wouldn't turn his ELD in. Well, he could still show up anywhere and act like he still worked for him. But we at Ready App, we have a way to try to combat that with having a driver roster that can be turned on and off where a broker can see, because there's nothing like that. And you're right. I mean, it's so easy. And you have people in the guard shack, you have somebody up on the dock. They don't pay attention to half of what's going on. They're just there to get through an 8-hour shift, and so things can get slipped through the cracks very. So you're 100% on that.
Yeah. There's also an issue with exempt commodities. We'll get into that another time, but I'll say this: not all freight shipments are equal. Some are very high risk, including automobiles, U.S. mail, produce. I would get my money up front on those. And this is something that's very important too. Let's say a carrier is accused of damaging the freight. An insurance company is supposed to assess the liability. Did the carrier actually damage the freight or not? If they didn't damage the freight, whether their policy covers it or not is irrelevant. The carrier didn't, but these insurance companies, they're not doing that. They're just checking the policy and go, well, the policy doesn't cover it. They're not saying if the carrier actually caused the damages or not. Therefore, the carrier's offset of their freight charges is stuck in an arrested state of development. It's in purgatory. That payment's just going to be hemmed up forever because there's no clear direction, right? Here's the truth. Let's say a carrier did damage the freight, but their policy didn't cover it. Whose job was it before they hired the carrier to make sure that that carrier's policy covered the freight that was being put on that carrier's truck?
The broker or the shipper.
The broker. The broker was hired to vet a proper carrier.
Yeah, or if a shipper didn't use a broker.
But these hourly employees working for these brokers are going to go, yep, you got the insurance certificate. That's right. But you're moving VCRs. Does that policy cover electronics? I'm showing my age here by saying VCRs.
I think half of our listeners don't even know what a VCR is.
Probably not.
They barely know what a DVD player is.
Yeah. Hey, I remember when VCRs were $300 to $500. That's how old I am. I remember
the double cassette that you could actually put the movie in and then record the movie on this.
Yep. That's exactly right. We had one of those growing up.
You were fancy if you had that one.
I remember Beta. Remember Beta?
Beta, yeah. Laser discs. I remember all that. Yeah. But if a broker is putting $100,000 worth of freight on the back of a carrier's truck and that freight gets destroyed, the shipper is going to take that out of the broker's pocket. The broker's going to desperately try to get that money from the insurance company, but when it doesn't get it, well, now they're going to try to sue the carrier if the carrier doesn't agree to pay that money so that the broker isn't getting stuck holding the bag. Well, I ask, whose job was it to make sure that that carrier's insurance policy covered the freight that you were putting on the goddamn truck?
Yeah, it's brokers. It's their responsibility.
So needless to say, in a nutshell, and I think we should probably make a t-shirt of it. If you're anything in trucking, it's cheaper to put you on retainer. They'll get their money back and more.
Well, with me, all of my services are free. So there is no retainer.
Oh, wow.
Wow, that's even better.
Right. The only reason I'm able to stay in business is because of our collections department. We have a risk-free collections, which means if I don't get the job done, then why should you have to pay me for the job that I didn't do? So either I'm going to get your money recovered or I'm going to give you a definitive answer that this is going to require litigation. I talked to all the parties and their attorneys. They're unmoved in their position, but at least now you know that there's an easy way and a hard way, and they let it be known the easy way was not going to happen. So now you know that you have to hire an attorney. And that information can be provided free because if I don't get the job done, there's no collection fees whatsoever. So at least you know. And we also know who their attorney is, what their counter position is. We'll already have our defense ready to go. We'll hand that to the carrier on a silver platter. And we've got a network of attorneys all around the country with a $2 million insurance policy. So we're talking awesome. Cases on silver platters.
Yeah. So, I mean, because most carriers don't even think about legal protection until the problem's already on top of them. I mean,
well, let me tell you what happens. Here's the biggest problem. You have 18-month statute limitation from the time that invoice goes out, 18 months. You're not going to get paid within 60 days. There goes 2 of your months. You're down to 16, or you're down to 16 months, right? Now you're going to spend another 30 days just really trying to struggle. What do I do? What do I do? And then you're finally going to start reaching out to attorneys, but it takes them time to call you back. And then you got to consult with them. They don't even know what a bill of lading is. Now you don't have hope. You don't have faith. You're running out of time. You're going to choose the wrong collections department. They're going to suck away 6 to 10 months, if not a whole year of your statute of limitations. What I'm saying is when the shit hits the fan, don't waste any of that precious time looking for the extinguisher. Know where your extinguisher is. Pray that the
and
fire
get
never
ahead
happens.
of it, right?
But know where your extinguisher is, because the clock's against you. And if you think that the shippers' attorneys don't know this, they will stall you out for 4 months, acting like they're talking to you, trying to work out a deal. They're draining the clock on. Y'all watch sports. Y'all seen how sports, there's strategy to this. And they're employing strategy. Expired statute of limitations is a free get out of jail free card for them.
So before we wrap up, where can people learn more about your firm and connect with you?
At our website, KizerSchwartz.com. That's www.kizer for Kizer. There is a little hyphen dash, and then it's Schwartz, SCHWARTZ.com. 662-470-1951. Our phone number. And the great thing about us is you're not going to get some sort of automated dialing system. There's no press 1 for this, press 2 for that. These situations that carriers are in, they need somebody on the phone right now. They don't got time to wait on hold for 10 or 15 minutes. We answer the phone. You call us. We pick up the phone right here, right now. What do you got? What's going on? If you just Google Kizer Schwartz, you cannot not see us. We are the only 5-star rated firm that does what we do. We specialize in the freight transportation industry, nothing else. If you ask me what to do because you got arrested for jaywalking, call an attorney. I don't know. I'm dumb as hell. But if you want to talk about freight transportation law, you've definitely come to the right place. This is all I've been reading up on. This is all I do. I eat, sleep, and breathe this shit, even on the weekends, for 14 years. And I've heard it all, I've seen it all, and I've never lost a debate, not once.
Awesome. All right. Well, Charles, we really appreciate you coming on.
I appreciate y'all inviting me.
Keep it safe out there and keep it between the lines. We'll catch you on the next one. All right. Thanks,
Take
Charles.
care, guys. Keep her between the lines now.
Today's episode is sponsored by Gray Cross. Every day, professional drivers make sacrifices that most people never see. Long hours, missed holidays, time away from family, and the responsibility of keeping America's supply chain moving. Gray Cross was created to support those drivers and their families when life takes an unexpected turn. By providing assistance, resources, and support during the difficult times, Gray Cross helps strengthen the trucking community one family at a time. Because behind every truck is a driver. Behind every driver is a family counting on them. If you'd like to support the mission, visit graycross.org to learn more. Donations are always appreciated, but simply sharing their message with others in the industry can make a tremendous difference. Gray Cross, supporting the people who keep America moving. Today's episode is brought to you by ReadyApp. Trust is the one most valuable asset in transportation. That's why ReadyApp created Driver Verify. Driver Verify helps carriers, brokers, and transportation companies gain greater confidence through verified driver identities, professional credentials, work history, and onboarding visibility. Drivers can securely maintain CDL information, endorsements, certifications, and employment records all in one professional profile. As fraud continues to impact the transportation industry, verification has never been more important. ReadyApp, verified drivers, trusted freight. Go check them out at ready-app.com.